Now, mostly I stick to basketball in my life and on this channel, but I would have to say my second favorite sport to watch is football. Now, usually I don't keep up with the NFL if the Falcons aren't doing well, but unless you've been living on a rock since 2016, I'm pretty sure you already know who Colin Kaepernick is. In 2016 preseason, Kap began kneeling during the playing of the National Anthem in protest of racial injustice shown towards blacks, particularly when it comes to police brutality. Now, today we're not really going to get into whether or not you agree or disagree with this protest, or whether or not you think he's being blackballed by the NFL. In today's video, we're going to ask a bigger question, which is, was he actually successful in his protest? As always, this is a discussion piece where I will throw out some ideas and give context to the discussion, and you guys take to the comment section to tell me how stupid I am. No, but seriously, I think this is an important question because while I've said leagues like the WNBA should stay away from activism for the sake of focusing on building their brand, I do understand that athletes are humans too and have opinions, just like the rest of us. Also, activism is a necessary change in developing society, and it would be wrong to just pigeonhole athletes and say shut up and play football. But the question still remains, what role can athletes play in activism? As a youth coach, I believe sports can and should be used to develop the whole person, not just athletic ability. And of course, social causes directly affects a person's well-being. So today, let's look at how successful Colin Kaepernick was in his protest, things that he could have done better, and also what athletes can or have done to shape our social landscape. Beginning in August 2016, the 49ers backup quarterback Colin Kaepernick began sitting during the National Anthem. According to him, I'm not going to stand and show pride in a flag for a country that oppresses black people and people of color. To me, this is bigger than football, and it would be selfish on my part to look the other way. There are bodies in the streets, and people are getting paid, leave, and getting away with murder. Later on, after speaking with veteran and former NFL player Nate Boyer, Colin decided to kneel instead of sit. Colin's protest of police brutality became the center of not just sports news, but national political news as well. People on all sides of the political spectrum had an opinion on his protest. As weeks followed, other athletes joined in his protest, and as that happened, NFL ratings began to plummet. Things really came to a head when President Donald Trump chimed in on his favorite social media website, Twitter. Now today, 2 years later, while some NFL players continue to protest by kneeling and in other ways, Colin Kaepernick is currently not on an NFL roster, and we're left wondering, did Colin's protest change anything on racial injustice and police brutality? And in my opinion, it depends, but not really. It depends on how you measure change. Has any public policy change or police reformation happened? Not that I know of. Are a lot of people talking about it? Absolutely. But talking is not stopping anyone from getting shot by a police officer or racial injustice from happening. Without action taking, nothing happens. I think it's good when athletes speak up for causes that are close to their hearts and show that they are more than just an athlete. But with that being said, regardless of what position you take on Colin's protest, I think there were some huge flaws in it from the start that led to its marginal success. So let's get into these right now. The first problem I saw with Kap's protest was that it was too broad. Police brutality and racial injustice is not a thing to protest in some respect. I understand the message and the point of the protest, but as the saying goes, if you aim at everything, you aim at nothing. Police brutality is too broad of an issue to change. No decent human being, if you ask them, are you against police brutality, is going to say yes. The challenge comes in trying to pinpoint where police brutality is, how it's expressed, who's committing it, and what needs to be done to stop it. In order to affect change, you must be able to pinpoint exactly what you're talking about and be able to explain this to people who do not agree with you. The truth is, most people are oblivious to the problems that do not directly affect them. So while you and your friends who have been treated unfairly by police officers don't even have to finish saying the word police to understand what police brutality is, someone else may not see anything wrong with law enforcement because their experience has not lent itself to seeing it. Right off the bat, Colin's protest did not have a clear enough purpose to the average bystander. If I had no dog in the fight, either because I've never experienced police brutality or I'm not actively supporting police brutality, then saying you're protesting police brutality kind of sounds like duh to me. Of course I'm against police brutality, I would think. Isn't everybody? However, if you said we're protesting the militarization of the state enforcement in California, now you've piqued my curiosity. Now I'm more willing to listen to your position instead of blowing you off as most moderates would. Even if I'm not from or live in California, the fact that the state is weaponizing the law enforcement is intriguing to me because I wouldn't want that happening in my city. In reality, though, I think Colin is a product of his social and political environment like all of us. I remember in 2008 with the Rock the Vote campaign, where there was a historic push to get young people to get out and vote. And something crazy like 2.6 young people between 18 and 24 registered to vote through the campaign, the most in U.S. history. That's when it started to become cool to be political. Fast forward to 2018, and now everyone who hashtags something thinks that they're an activist or participating in a protest. Hashtag stand with Kap sounds cool, but it gives no clarification about the actual stance. And if you're counting on people who are already not interested in your cause to go out and do their own research, you're basically done before you even get started. The other part of clarity is also knowing what you're not protesting. Racial injustice assumes that there's injustice already taking place, and from your vantage point, it probably is. But from another vantage point, racial injustice can sound like a disguised plea for special privileges. This is not just for Kap, but for all athletes and really anyone in life. Clarity equals power. The more clear you are in your demonstration, the more powerful of a push towards change you can make. So almost as soon as Kap started kneeling, his protest was basically hijacked by the media. Some were saying he's being disrespectful to the veterans. Some said he was dishonoring the flag and national anthem. In a few short months, the narrative became about the flag, the veterans, and the national anthem. Most who are on the side with Kap said that the protest had nothing to do with the veteran or the flag, but in actuality it did. This may sound simplistic, and that's because it is, but whatever you're protesting is what you're protesting. So if you decide to protest the national anthem or the flag, then your protest immediately becomes about the flag and the national anthem. You may not see it like that, but that's what it is. To Kap and supporters, there's a direct correlation between racial injustice, police brutality, and the flag and the national anthem. But to people who are unaware, there is not even the slightest bit of connection between the flag and bad cops. It is as simple as looking at the same action through different lenses. To one, his kneeling makes him a hero, standing up for people who can't stand up for themselves. To another, his kneeling makes him an ungrateful, spoiled millionaire who's disrespecting the real heroes, the veterans. And this is where communication breaks down. One side calls the other side racist, the other side tells the other side to get out the country, and Fox News and CNN throws a party because they know if they add fuel to the fire, their ratings go up. Kneeling during the anthem definitely gets you attention, but it's what you do with that attention that matters. A classic example of a well thought out protest is the Montgomery Bus Boycott. Speaking to my last point, it's very clear what's going on. You know the who, the where, and the how from the name of the protest. It was very strategically done. It had been thought about for months. How do you get people who don't care about your issues to care about your issues? You show them how much they need you. When all the black people stopped riding the bus in Montgomery, Alabama, the economy of that city took a big hit. After that, it was just about endurance. And many people pulled together, from carpooling to taxi services to walking and riding bikes to make the boycott work. And eventually, after some time, they got what they wanted, the right to sit anywhere on the bus. But it didn't happen through hashtags. They had to think it through every possible angle, imagining and reimagining how their opposition might respond in light of their boycott. Even from the hand-picking of the clean-cut Rosa Parks to ignite the fire that sparked the change. There was no way the media could hijack that protest. sure they tried, and ultimately they failed, because the protest was very clear in what it was about and had an extremely well thought out and executed game plan. So why was Kap's protest hijacked? At one point, the entire NFL was taking a knee for unity as an organization. It's simple. Whatever you're protesting is what you're protesting. Once you protest the flag, your protest becomes about the flag and not about police brutality. If people could see the correlation between the flag and racial injustice, you wouldn't have to protest in the first place. Should you decide to engage in protest, make sure that it's well thought out. In our current climate, it's trendy to be political. I mean, what group doesn't have a march these days? But also, how much change is actually taking place. It's like I tell my players, no wasted movement out there on the basketball court. Every movement has to have a purpose. If you're going to dribble for the sake of dribbling, just save your dribble. If you're going to cut to the basket, cut to score. Otherwise, make a V cut over here to this bench because you're wasting space out there on the court. Today, we have a lot of wasted protests because people are outraged over everything nowadays. I think the Kaepernick protest could have been one of the most effective protests in American history had he been a little bit more patient, gathered a few more people, and organized his protests in a well thought out manner. I have to say, the more I research Colin Kaepernick, the more I support the guy. Unlike most celebs who latch onto a social justice cause right before a product rollout, Colin has put his money where his mouth was, and that's what we should really be talking about. You can see from this picture right here where Colin has been spending his money since he first started protesting. But you don't really hear much from Colin these days other than the Nike ad, and that's because he's out here in the streets with various local and national organizations that stand behind his causes, which makes me wonder if Colin even realized how big this whole protest thing was going to get, or if any professional athlete knows how much their little actions make a difference in our society. In a very real and scary way, professional athletes and celebrities are like America's version of Greek gods and goddesses. We worship what these guys do and say and follow them as if life depends on it. Colin ended up sacrificing much of his celebrity to be more active in the causes that he's passionate about. And he seems happy, so that's good for him. But for other athletes, it may be worth thinking a little bit more about how you can strategically use your celebrity for the benefit of the causes you support. Maybe you don't demonstrate with the frontline activists, but you finance the movement so that it can continue and prosper. My personal opinion is that it's wiser for millionaires and celebrities to forego public demonstrations at time for the sake of financing grassroots movements and other people who are specialists and have expertise in the areas that you want the change to happen. Doesn't mean that you don't do anything at all. It just means that you're more strategic with how you move, so not to mess up the bag that's going to finance the revolution. It seems that Colin Kaepernick wasn't an activist when he started kneeling, but rather an athlete that saw something bigger than his sport. In his own words, he had been talking about these things for months with friends and family and wanted to do something about it. And he did, and I do applaud him. Not for his bravery, because let's be real, it's not like Colin Kaepernick is getting lynched for taking a knee during the anthem, and I'm not shedding a tear over someone who made multi-millions of dollars in their playing career who doesn't have a job now. If he knows how to use his money, he doesn't need a job. But I do applaud him for standing up for what he believes in. And you gotta admit that no matter what side of the protest you stand on, that's commendable. I also critique his methodology because I feel like we don't hold activists accountable like we should. In our social hashtag culture, where we feel like we're doing something important because we got more than 5 retweets, we don't do enough critical evaluation of our protests. A lot of people don't know this, but Dr. Martin Luther King failed miserably in some of his protests. But it was also those failures that led him to help get some of the most important civil rights legislation passed in American history. So in my opinion, Colin gets an A+ for effort and a C- for execution. He's done a stupendous job off the field, but his initial protest has been hijacked and hasn't really led to much social change in America. But what do you think? Was Colin Kaepernick successful in his protests? And what other ways can athletes get involved in projects and social reform that are important to them? Let me know down in the comment section. Also, if you like this video, go ahead and like it. Subscribe to the channel. I got a goal to hit 10,000 subscribers by the end of January. So if you can help me reach my goal, that would mean a lot to me. Like I said, like it if you like it. Subscribe if you're new. And I'll see you next time. Peace.